guys, welcome to another episode of Zach's Credit Card Guide. We've got a couple cool stories to talk about this week, so go ahead, grab some snacks, let's get into it. Our headline topic this week is some interesting benefits and changes to the Chase Sapphire Reserve. So one interesting feature that is being rolled out, and this is available as of right now from May 31st through the end of September this year. And Chase is calling it Pay Yourself Back. And essentially what it is being able to use your Chase UR points as sort of a purchase eraser for certain categories. So this is like what Capital One does with their miles, where you can use the miles and just erase something on your statement. That's kind of what this is. And on the Sapphire Reserve, you can use your points at 1.5 cents each, which is typically what they're valued at through Chase's travel portal. And you can use these points towards purchases that are flagged as dining, grocery stores, and home improvement stores. So some categories that people are spending some money on right now, maybe not so much dining right now, but then again, you can still order takeaway and everything, so that might still be a good way to go. So it's pretty simple to use. Again, you use your points at 1.5 cents each and just erase a purchase from your statement. Whether or not that's something you want to do is up to you. Personally, I'm of the opinion that this too shall pass, and I'm only in this hobby to travel. So I'd rather just sit on my points and wait till life gets back to normal. But maybe your circumstances are different. Maybe you don't plan to travel anytime soon, even if things do kind of get back to normal. So maybe you just want to use your points this way. That's totally fine to do. It's really up to you and what you're trying to do with this hobby. The second interesting change is that the $300 credit that's available on the Sapphire Reserve, that's traditionally only been available for travel, and how it works is during your card member year, your first $300 that code as travel automatically get erased from your statement up to that $300, which brings the effective annual fee, well, it used to be $450, now it's $550, but we're going to talk about that in a second. So anyway, that brings the annual fee down by $300, let's just put it that way. And if you're in this hobby to travel, it's a pretty easy way to use it, and Chase is really liberal with what they consider travel. Now, only for this year, so from June 1st, so a few days ago, through the end of the year, your travel credit, if you have it available, if you renew or you still have it or whatever, if you still have that $300 available, it is now going to code not just for travel, but also grocery stores and gas stations. So anytime you use your Sapphire Reserve at one of those places, you'll be eating into your $300 credit, which the point is to make it a lot easier to use, because all of these changes are very consumer friendly, and I think it's because Chase doesn't want people to start canceling their reserves en masse. So they're making a lot of positive changes to help make the renewal decision a lot easier for folks. And last, like I was just talking about with the annual fee, we covered it a few months ago. Like everybody, Chase upped the annual fee from $450 to $550 for the Sapphire Reserve, taking it out of absolutely no-brainer territory into maybe you kind of got to think about it, it's still worth it, but you got to put a little more thought into it. When this whole pandemic thing started, Chase started offering people kind of selectively a $100 statement credit to take away from that raised annual fee. But it was kind of on a case-by-case basis. There wasn't a whole lot of data points on if this was just a given, if it was a matter of fact, if you had to ask for it. Nobody really knew exactly what they were doing. Now they've just made it blanket across the board. The Sapphire Reserve, if you renew from July 1st through the end of the year, your annual fee is just going to be $450 like it used to be. Now I assume that as long as everything is back to normal by January 1st of next year, that the annual fee is going to jump back up, because the Sapphire Reserve has always been kind of a loss leader for Chase. They haven't really made a lot of money on it yet, just because it is such a no-brainer card. That's why they had to raise the annual fee in the first place. So I imagine that next year it is going to go back up as long as everything is relatively back to normal. But at least for this year, we get another year of that $450 annual fee, which if you are new to this hobby and you hear me talking about a credit card with a $450 annual fee, maybe $550, maybe being a no-brainer, maybe you need to watch some of the other videos, but at $450, it's even a killer deal is what I'm trying to tell you, because of all the cool benefits that have come out in anticipation of that higher annual fee. So right now you're getting way positive expected value, probably just holding the card. So right now your renewal is going to be $450. You get the $300, and that's going to be pretty easy to get back as a statement credit from like grocery stores, gas stations, and now travel. So that's pretty much a given. Now you're down to $150 for this year. even if you don't end up using like the lounge access and stuff like that a whole lot this year, you're still getting the DoorDash credit, which is $60 in 2020 and $60 in 2021, so that's $120. Now you're only into this card $30. And the other benefits that it comes with, you're probably going to get your money out of that. If you value the Lyft Pink membership at all, maybe that's worth $30 for a year. I've used it only a couple times because we only got a couple trips in this year so far. But really, right now, the Sapphire Reserve, they've made it an absolute no-brainer card to keep. So my renewal is coming up in a couple months, and I was kind of on the fence about it, but now it's absolutely worth holding on to for at least another year, and then we'll reassess next year. And also, as a quick reminder, on your Sapphire Reserve, right now you are getting 5 times points at grocery stores on the Sapphire Reserve. That's a promotion that goes until the end of June. Now, just to touch on the Sapphire Preferred, because there are a couple changes to that card as well. You can still do the purchase eraser that we were just talking about. You can use that on the Sapphire Preferred as well. Works exactly the same way, except the points are valued at 1.25 cents a piece, just like the travel portal. Our next story this week is talking about the Apple Card. Now, this is a card I have not added to my wallet simply because I see absolutely no reason to use it, but there are some interesting changes coming to it pretty soon. On a recent call, CEO Tim Cook made some hints that they will be bringing the no-interest financing that they introduced on the iPhones last year to pretty much the rest of their lineup, which makes a lot of sense. So last fall, to entice people to upgrade and just kind of make it easier to do, if you had an Apple Card, you could finance a new iPhone over 24 months with no interest. It sounds like they're going to be expanding that again to the rest of their product line. Now, instead of 24 months, it sounds like some of the more expensive products, so your iPads, Macs, your Apple displays, all the kind of the higher end stuff will be available on a 12-month plan for no interest. And then if there is a balance after that, it just gets added to your balance and then you start paying interest on that. So you do want to make sure that you pay it off on time. For some of the smaller products like Apple TV, HomePod, stuff like that, it'll be available for 6 months. So it is an interesting concept. On a personal note, I steer away from debt wherever possible. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I kind of got on the Dave Ramsey train a little bit. Obviously, I don't agree with him on credit cards, but just overall, getting out of debt was one of the best decisions I ever made, so I try to steer away from ever going back into that if I can. The only exception I will ever make is for no interest, and even then you have to be very strategic about it because it can be a trap that you can dig yourself into a hole you can't get out of. So do be careful with this kind of stuff, but if you are disciplined, if you can make sure that you pay it off on time, there's really not a whole lot of reason not to do it because it's no interest, so you're using somebody else's money for free for, in this case, up to a year. So those are some interesting changes. They're not effective yet. This was only hinted at by Tim Cook on a recent call, but I would imagine it'll be announced fairly soon. My money would be on this being announced at WWDC 2020, which is scheduled for June 22nd. That's when I would expect Apple to make an announcement like this. And our last topic this week is talking about a recent change Amex has made to how many cards you can hold. Now, like many topics in this hobby, we kind of had to crowdsource data points to figure out what the banks are doing. They rarely come out and tell us what the rules are. For instance, like the Chase 524 rule was figured out through mass data points and everybody kind of getting together, putting together their profiles and kind of looking at everything and reverse engineering what is now known as the 524 rule, even though Chase will never confirm that it actually exists. So something like that for Amex is how many cards you can hold at one time. And they've typically only really applied this to the credit cards. So Amex does have charge cards, which they're the only issuer, at least that I know of in the US, that have charge cards that need to be paid off in full each month, like you should do with a credit card anyway, but with a charge card you have to. Otherwise you run the risk of them closing the account. A credit card, you can maintain a balance if for some reason you need to. And with Amex, it's typically been thought that you can have 5 credit cards at any one time and then a few charge cards on top of that. And that's where I'm at right now. I have 5 credit cards with Amex. It was recently found out that they may have lowered this limit on credit cards to 4, and that would include personal and business cards. Now again, that does not include charge cards. It is thought that they will allow you to have up to 10 charge cards in addition to credit cards. And if you don't know which is which, the charge cards are like the typical Amex cards, if you want to think of them that way. The green, the gold, the platinum, the ones that are like just Amex cards. Their credit cards are all of the co-branded ones like Delta, Hilton, the Amazon cards, all of the rest of them are credit cards. And it appears that they have lowered the limit to 4. Now, why would they do this? Is this temporary? I mean, it's kind of obvious. A lot of banks right now are trying to lower their risk wherever possible, and they don't want people who currently have fewer than 4 cards to run up and try to get 5. They're trying to limit their risk across the board, which I do think makes a lot of sense, especially because nobody knows how long this is going to last, and are we headed towards another recession? So all of the banks are trying to lower their risk wherever possible. Will they increase that limit back up to 5, maybe next year or something? I would expect so. But again, we don't really know. Now, what happens if you already have 5 cards? Like I said, I do. I haven't heard anything from Amex. They haven't asked me to close one or anything like that. And like I told you about in our last episode, they even targeted me for an upgrade to the Everyday Preferred, which I'm working on the minimum spend right now. And again, I haven't heard anything about having to close a card, and I haven't seen anything like that floating around on the internet. And as long as this rule is in effect, let's take somebody like me, for instance. I have 5 cards, and maybe the limit really is 4 now. If I wanted to apply for another card, like this time last year, I would expect to get kind of denied. I'd call in Recon, and they would tell me to close one and basically replace that card and still have 5. Now, if I wanted to apply for another one, let's say for whatever reason I wanted to, it's possible that I might not only have to close 1, but maybe 2 to end up with a new card, to end up with 4 total. That's a very real possibility. Now, I'm not really applying for new cards right now anyway, and I wouldn't recommend that you do either. The banks are just too skittish right now. And as far as this new rule, I kind of expect it to change maybe this time next year, as long as the economy kind of recovers and everything's back to normal. I would expect Amex to raise it back up, but really we don't know. So right now it does appear that with Amex you are limited to 4 credit cards and up to 10 charge cards. So those are our 3 stories this week, guys. My question for you guys is, what do you think about the Chase pay yourself back purchase eraser thing? Is that something you're going to do? Right now, not a lot of us are traveling. So are you going to use your points to erase certain purchases? Do you think that's a good use of points? Let everybody know down below. If you guys have any other comments or questions, please do leave them down below. I try to get to every single one. If you want to get in touch and talk credit cards, if you have any questions about strategy or what to do, if you want to get real in depth, I like to nerd out about this stuff, obviously. That's why I started this channel. So if you want to get in touch, here's my social media links. They're down in the description as well. Send me a message. I do get quite a few from you guys, so I will get back to you as soon as I can. But just hit me up and we can talk strategy. And please consider leaving the video a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you are new here, we talk about a lot of credit card topics. We get real in depth and talk about the points and miles hobby, so make sure to subscribe. That's all I've got for you this time, guys. I'll see you at the next one. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure to drop a comment down below and give the video a thumbs up. Here's some other videos that I think you'll really like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos, and I'm on Facebook and Twitter as well. See you at the next one.